Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. I'm LionHeartBlue, and thank you very much for checking out the second episode of my Scrap Mechanic Survival series. This particular episode will be a bit shorter than I plan to do normally, but the reason is I do have an awful lot of footage of me building this timber mill, and I was hoping actually to be moving on by now and doing something different, because I spent most of my first episode doing this, but I'm having so many issues with it. I thought I'd show you, because you probably got some comments, suggestions you can give me, which will help. So I've added a resource collector and a refinery there, so as it collects the cut up scrap wood, it'll come back here and can start refining it into better wood. Because of that, it's heavy, so it's a bit heavy on the pistons, so I've had to add these little arms on the side as support, so it keeps it upright, gives less stress on the pistons that push the big trees forward. Once I get all this done, we can move on to building probably a better machine to cut down the trees, like a transporter lorry to bring the trunks back here. This is one problem I've been having, is these saw blades spin even though the thing is turned off. I can't quite work out why that's happening. So if I show you, look, that there's only 3 bearings and it's off, so I'll turn it on and you can see the pistons push that thing forward. If I disconnect it, reconnect it, so that should have stopped any power to the controller, and the controller therefore which controls the bearings, but you can see that everything's still spinning. So I think I've designed some perpetual motion machine. It doesn't require power, but I think what's happening is one bearing is spinning one way, causing the one below it to spin, and I think they counteract each other, so one of them's trying to stop, the other one's also trying to stop, but it's causing the one above or below it to still spin with some random thing like that, and I can't quite work out why. I've tried changing the direction the bearings are spinning in and things like that, and nothing seems to stop them. I don't know if it's me or a bug, or it's probably me just not understanding. So I'll have a look at this and I'll come back when I've got something to show you. So just having a look around, and I've lost a vehicle. My tree cutting car is gone, and I needed that soon. Here it is. I don't remember parking it down here. I presume that it's slid off the bank into the water. So let me get it back up here, because we're going to need that soon when we're ready to start testing the mill. Right, well, a few changes. I've got rid of those 3 bearings. I've added more saw blades and just 2 bearings, one at the top and one at the bottom. I'm hoping that if they both spin in the same direction, all the saw blades between them will also spin in that direction and should all stop at the same time. Let's just check the direction. That's all clockwise. So let's turn it on, give it a test. 360, that's alright. Well, it is on, but why is nothing moving? It's now off. See that even the pistons aren't moving. And that's because it's still on the lift. So yes, of course, so I was welding the saw blades together from the bottom to the top of this end, and you can't do that when it's a standalone structure, so I had to just take it off the world, because it was welded to the world here, to the floor even, and put it on my lift, and then you get the ability to weld bits together, and now I can put it back, weld it back to the ground, and hopefully everything should work. So let's go back. Oh, really not a good place for this, but I will sort that out once I get this all working. So they're not running, not spinning now. Turn it on. The pistons are moving. It might help if I connect the switch to the controller. There we go. So let's turn it off. Make sure they're not spinning. Not spinning, great. Turn it on. Piston moves, and they're spinning. Fantastic. So I think this means we're ready for another test. Might need to upgrade this, but let's go and get some wood, and we'll see how it goes. Probably saw from that montage that how poor that vehicle is. I mean, it's not great, and I've made this thing too short still, so that will need extending, but we can do a test. So let's turn this on and see how this smaller tree goes. So it's pushing into the blades, saws, sorry, but doesn't seem to be cutting it. I know the area of effect of the blades is smaller than the actual blade itself. There's no collision on the outside of them, so that might be why. If the trunk's not centered, which it isn't, it's probably not in an area that cuts. So we're going to need something that centers the trunks. That's not cutting either. Oh, and bits still fall out the side. What's banging? Yeah, that's not really effective either, is it? That resource collector is too far away to be of any use. Let's get back on the lift, just double check the top. Because it should be pushing. Yeah, see, all that's in the way. It's not centered. The blades aren't cutting this bit. Now that resource is out, it still can't cut. Oh, it's pushing, but I think there's just too many cut bits of wood in the way. I'll come back. Let me have a look at this and I'll come back. Right, so I've added these pushy things on the side which should center the tree trunk, but my blades have stopped working, so the top one is spinning and none of the others are. Again, probably they're all spinning the same way, so if I change them, still nothing seems to happen. Oh, hang on, there's one. So if I do every other one, does that make a difference? So one spins one way, one spins the other. Doesn't appear to be making a difference. Oh, hang on. There doesn't seem to be any logic to this, unless I'm really not understanding it. Again, please put some comments in the comment section. Let me know what the hell I'm doing wrong. I'm sure many of you will have some ideas. It just seems to randomly spin whenever. See, now the bottom one's spinning. And they're all spinning. Took some time. Again, I'm going to go away, give it some thought, and I'll come back when it's sorted. So I'm ready to try another tree now. I've made this a bit bigger as well, a bit longer, so those bigger tree trunks seem to fit. Oh, now it's falling down here. Right, let's see if this is going to cut. I think we're just in time to see it reaching. So it's definitely centered now. They're cutting it nicely. Look at that, pretty quick. And that all drops down, which is great if there was a resource collector here, because they're just going to roll into the sea. But my resource collector is where the pistons are back there, so it's coming. Do I put a cage or something here to stop those bits rolling out? Maybe on the outside. Something like this here. No, I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't think that will work. I think I need to move the resource collectors. You can see here that there's cut up bits of wood. You can't cut them, you can't hammer them, you can't do anything with them. They can only be refined with in the refinery. So they're like an immovable object for the pistons and that. So you can see all of them here that have been cut up that are preventing this from working. So if I bring this here and it collects all of those bits, it should start working again. So I'll remove that resource collector from here, because it's serving absolutely no purpose back there. But it's picking up the resources now, which is great. Let's just see how effective these blades are, because they still don't be spinning quite right. I mean, the top one's not spinning at all. But hopefully within 2 or 3 seconds of it touching the blades, 1, 2, yeah, it starts cutting them. So it seems to be working fairly efficiently now. The blades still don't be spinning quite as I expected. I've got 2 resource collectors down here, and I've moved the refine bot, so that's picking up those resources, refining them, moving them to this chest, which is great, to give me lots of wood to start building my base with. So it's not taking too long to do half this trunk. You can see it's quite effective now. I think it was all about getting the speed of the blades right, and the resource collectors. So I'm going to add a coloured block here and a sensor here, and when that sensor senses that coloured block, it can turn itself off to add a bit of automation to it, so it's just not constantly spinning and pushing. So as it was going quite well with the big tree trunks, I thought I'd give it a try with a small one, but it was a big fail. So unfortunately it's going to be back to the drawing board. As you can see, when I tested small ones, they just fell straight through. So I need to do some work on that. So not quite as bad as I thought it was going to be. I'm just going to block up these holes. So I'll do that and I'll come back. Some improvements have been made, but still far from complete. You probably saw in the montage that the small trees, although they didn't fall through the bottom, they got pushed right out the back. So I'll have to work on that. But moving on quickly, the more astute of you may have noticed in the top left-hand corner that the time is showing as 12 o'clock, and it's been like that through the whole of this episode. We've not gone to darkness, and I will explain why in a minute. But it's because I entered in dev mode, which is a way of playing this survival game and testing things. You get unlimited resources and things like that. But there was a very valid reason for me to going into dev mode. I just forgot to turn it off. And let's have a look at why right now. So just before recording this episode, I went back to the mechanic station and fell through the floor. Not entirely sure what I'd done, but I had resources on me that I didn't want to lose, so I didn't want to die in here in case I couldn't get those resources back. So I logged off, entered dev mode, which allowed me to run a command to spawn my character somewhere else on the map, which got me out of this. But it meant that I then started recording this episode with dev mode on, which doesn't change the time, etc. So that's that, and I apologise. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, give us a thumbs up and subscribe to stay notified of new videos coming up. Thank you very much.